Hey, how's everybody doing today? My name is Matthew Stevens from A Series of Little Efforts, and we're back with another video. So today we're going to talk about lumbar lordosis. We've been using this diagram here for all of our posture series so far, and we've covered the other types of posture already on here. So lumbar lordosis is the second one from the left there. We also touched on foot position and raised shoulders, if you want to check those videos out. But today, lumbar lordosis, as you can see in the picture, is the lumbar region of the spine, and there's a huge arch in it, and the hips are actually behind the midline. For this video, I want to use a lot more diagrams for you guys, because there is a lot more anatomy involved. So for starters, let's bring up a picture of the spine. So if we look at the spine as a whole, there are five main areas: cervical vertebrae, the thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae, the sacrum, and the coccyx. With lumbar lordosis, we're focusing only in that lumbar region at the bottom there. You can see the numbers beside each section indicate how many vertebrae are in each section. So for the lumbar section, there are 5 vertebrae there, so that's what we're going to talk about today. For starters, lumbar lordosis is also very similar to swayback. So first let's go into the differences between the two. As you can see here, on the left we have swayback, in the middle we have lumbar lordosis, and on the right we have what would be considered good posture. So we've already talked about swayback. If you are interested in hearing more about it, if you didn't see the previous video, I am going to put the link to that down in the description below, so check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But if you notice, what I've done in this picture is I've taken 2 red dots, I've put 1 red dot right underneath the ear, and I've put another red dot right on where the hip would be. So if we were to take a line and draw straight down through the two, you would notice that on the swayback, the hips are actually in front of the midline. In the lumbar lordosis, the hips are behind the red line, and on the good posture, everything is neutral. So obviously you want everything to be neutral, but there is a big difference between the two, and misdiagnosing this can actually be a very large issue. If you, best case scenario, you contact somebody and ask them to help you determine which of the 2 postural problems that you have, whether it be swayback or lumbar lordosis. But worst case scenario is you either self-diagnose or get misdiagnosed one and then actually try and fix that yourself, and it turns out being the other. So you really want to be careful, as a lot of the problems that are with it are the same, but how to fix it is slightly different, and you can actually make the problem worse if you aren't careful and you start correcting it in the wrong way. So if we zoom in on this, you can at least get a chance to look at the actual vertebrae and what that's going to look like in the spine with lordosis. So on the lordosis side there, you notice a huge curve compared to the normal side of the spine. If we zoom in on this a little further, we actually get a chance to look at the specific vertebrae. So starting from the top and working down, you have lumbar vertebrae 1, L2, L3, L4, and L5. Followed by the sacrum below that. So looking at this image, you can actually see the lordosis and how the posterior, which is the back of, toward the back of the body, so the posterior part of the vertebrae are squished together and starting to become compacted. So what's causing it, and how are we going to fix it? To answer this, let's move over to the musculature of this region. So here's a very comprehensive guide of all the muscles involved in the control of your pelvic tilt. I will be putting up a simpler diagram in a little bit, but this is kind of for the people that are interested in the really complex part of it. So as you can see here, there's 4 main areas: the abdominals, the hip flexors, the lower back, and the hip extensors. Normally, in any kind of lumbar lordosis, the abdominals and hip extensors are very weak, and the hip flexors and the lower back are very tight. So if you think about it that way, the hip extensors, mainly the glutes, and the abdominals, mainly the rectus abdominis, are the ones you would want to strengthen, and then the hip flexors and the lower back are the ones you would want to loosen or stretch. So here's a much simpler diagram of the same thing. If we look at the abdominals first, and they're weak, that weakness combined with the tightness of the hip flexors is going to cause the hips to roll forward. And then the weakness of the glutes is going to, in turn, tilt your hips up. And then the tightness of the lower back is going to pull that up further. And then the weakness of the abs is going to perpetuate that as well, which is going to turn this into a very cyclical motion. So all of these things combined together, working in this same cycle, is what is going to cause that anterior tilt in your hips, which in turn is going to cause the lordosis. So in conclusion, trying to stretch out the hip flexors and the lower back and trying to strengthen the glutes and the abdominals are a great place to start. With the glutes, it's going to be very hard to actually hit your glutes properly, so leading in with some glute activation would be a great idea. We are going to touch on that in another video, potentially next week. So that is the end of the initial part of our posture series. We've touched on the first 6 types of posture. Moving forward in this series now, we are going to work on adding in all the exercises and stretches that you're going to need in order to help work on these types of posture. So if you have any questions, let me know down in the comment section down below. Don't forget that I will be posting the sway back video also in the comment section, or not in the comment section, in the description below. So check that out as well. Please also like this video, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you again soon with another video. Thanks guys, have a great day.